Thanks for watching. I'm Margot Kinberg, and this is In the Spotlight, a closer look at a crime novel. Alfred Hitchcock's Rear Window is perhaps the best known example of the sort of crime story, mystery story that starts with someone looking out a window and watching the neighbors and gradually getting suspicious. But it's not the only example, and it's actually not the first. To show you what I mean, let's take a look at an earlier crime novel today and turn the spotlight on Elizabeth Kent's The House Opposite, a mystery. Charles Fortescue is a relatively recently minted New York City doctor. One hot summer night, he's unable to sleep and is hoping to get some fresh air on the roof of his apartment building. As he sits, he notices some commotion in the apartment building across the street called the Rosemere. After a while, it dies down, though there's still some movement in the apartment he sees. The rest of the night does pass peacefully, however, but the next morning, Fortescue is called over to the Rosemere. The body of an unknown man has been discovered in a vacant apartment, and Fortescue's services are requested to establish time and manner of death. Fortescue is honest enough to admit that he has an interest in the crime, and he gives his professional opinions. Detective Merritt, who's assigned to the case, soon arrives, and the investigation begins. It's soon shown that the dead man was murdered, and after a few interviews, it becomes clear that he was probably killed by one of the people in the building. It's a very hot summer at a time before air conditioning, so everyone who can has left New York, but there are 3 occupied apartments. One belongs to a newlywed couple, Larry and Lulu Atkins. With them live their butler, Celestin Arco, and his wife, Jeanne. Another apartment belongs to a Mr. Stewart, who is a bachelor. The Derwent family owns the 3rd occupied apartment, and lately Miss May Derwent has spent some time there. Since it's very unlikely that anyone else could have entered the building at that hour, Detective Merritt considers the building's residents the most likely suspects. Fortescue takes a real interest in the case, in part because he feels he's been in on it since the beginning. There's also the fact that he has become infatuated with May Derwent, and he wants to do whatever he can to protect her and keep her name clear. In fact, his feelings for her form a subplot of the novel. As the case goes on, Merritt and Fortescue slowly learn some truths about each family in the Rosemere, and it turns out that each person who lives there could have had a motive for murder. But Merritt can't conclusively tie any of the residents to the crime until the dead man is positively identified. Besides, every resident has an alibi for the time of the murder. Little by little, we find out about the different suspects and about what each one was really doing when the crime was committed. And in the end, we discover the truth about what happened that night. So, what are the elements in this story? What ties it together? Well, as I said, this is an example of the trope of the onlooker who sees these things going on from across the street or another apartment in the building, and it does build the suspense. The novel was published in 1902, and in some important ways it's very much of its time. Readers will notice several comments and assumptions that we would now consider extremely racist, classist, sexist, and xenophobic. The dialogue reflects that bias. That said, it clearly depicts New York City at the turn of the 20th century. The mystery itself, who was killed, who did the killing, and why, is the main focus of the story. It's not really an impossible crime, but it takes time for Merritt and Fortescue to find out what really happened. Readers who like all of the loose ends tied, so to speak, will notice that there are 1 or 2 questions left unanswered. But it is fair to say that the main mystery is explained. The House Opposite, a mystery, is a turn of the 20th century whodunit, howdunit. It features a posh apartment building, a set of residents, all of whom have secrets, and an amateur sleuth and professional detective who work to find the answers. This has been In the Spotlight. I'm Margot Kinberg. Thanks for watching.